Good evening. I have, there's an error. See, today we have become so much dependent on people, dependent on tools, and dependent now on these sessions, AI, right? So actually I missed out some typo. What should be an untold story from? Rag to riches. So excuse me for that. But then I have to continue with this story, right? Because I cannot change it at the last moment. So bear with me. I will continue with the same story, an untold story from riches to rag. So let me take you 2 decades back. 2 decades back, I was rich, very rich, okay? So I was having an excellent career. I was being paid for my passion even then, right? I was being paid for my passion even then. I was doing 2 decades back my master's in software system from BITS Pilani and learning about artificial intelligence, what was there at that point of time, right? So it was a wonderful situation. I was very happy. And I thought I had the bull by its horn. However, at the same point, my spouse said, I don't know what's the problem with you. Whenever you pour out all your intelligence, you are missing out the context. And that is the time my riches was reduced to rag. And with this particular aspect, let me now tell you another story, because this was an untold story. So let me tell you an upside down story to start with. And I'm very sure I won't take that much amount of time to get into that. We talked about too much, we are talking about storytelling, right? But have any one of you heard about Seth Godin? And here he has a book by the name of All Marketeers Are Liars. And he says storytelling is all about lying. But authentic storytelling has to have the element of truth in that. And that gets you on the right path. So whenever you are talking of storytelling, we want to become rich. How we want to become rich? We want to have everything more. Ye dil mange more. So we want to, whenever in context of AI also, we said more of language, more of models, not the Kingfisher models, right? We are talking of the AI models. So more of models, more of data sets. We said data is the new oil. I think Andre knew, whenever he started this, I think everyone is following up with those terminologies. So we thought of having more of data sets, more of training, everything we wanted more. But as a result of that, what is happening? When everything is more in excess, it is intoxicating. And intoxication leads to hallucinations. So what we saw was the rise of the LLMs, large language models. And we have discussed, I think some of the sessions also covered some high superficial level on that. We said large language models, and all of us, to some extent, know all about the architecture behind it. What is the architecture behind LLMs? And which is the architecture which is driving everything today? The name of a movie, great movie? Transformers, right? So LLMs have seen a lot of growth, meteoric rise in both power as well as capability. And there is an insatiable appetite. As I said, more and more, we want everything more, and we are uncovering a lot of potential. But as I said, it is intoxicating and it is leading to something called hallucinations. We need to be grounded in facts. And that's what I wanted to cover. Do you see this? This is an output from an AI. But do you agree with what he says? Yuri Gagarin was the first man to land on the moon. You agree, right? Yes or no? Yes? Yuri Gagarin was the first person. US will take grand opposition to that. Who was the first person to land on the moon? Neil Armstrong. Then who was Yuri Gagarin? The first person in, anyone? In space, absolutely. So sometimes you need to have the context right. Sometimes it can make errors. And what these hallucinations can cost in today's world, when we are overly dependent on AI, is the dangerous pitfalls which are associated with that. And these pitfalls can produce convincing but factually incorrect outputs, right? Because these errors are costly in multiple sense. Your trustworthiness is challenged. No organization worth its salt would like its brand name to go down. And finally, they pose serious risk to an organization or an entity which is going to be overly dependent on this. So how do you go about doing that? Do you know these two guys? Anyone? Bahubali and Katappa. Okay. So tell me one thing. There is one question which was unanswered for quite some number of years. What was that question? Bahubali ko Katappa ne kyun mara? But imagine you had an AI system which was very accurate at that point of time. And before 2017, you asked it a question and it hallucinated. You would have still got an answer for that, which would have been factually incorrect. Because only 3 people at that point of time, before Bahubali 2 came, were aware of this fact that Kattappa ne Bahubali ko kyun mara. So these are certain things which we have to understand beyond the context of AI. This has to, Anand covered a wonderful session today on AI and impact on humanity, right? So we are concerned with those aspects also. So keep that in mind before going ahead. Okay. Now, you had a 2-day session, right? And those of you who traveled outside from Bangalore and come here. Do you know this place, Big Brewski? Have you heard about it? It's a temple or worship? No? Okay. So, if you go to a signpost, you decided that Friday and Saturday, 2 days, yes, lot of information overload. So now we should go and relax. And you want to go to this place called Big Brewski. For those who don't know about this, anybody knows Toit? Yeah, you know Big Brewski as well, right? So if you're going to a brewery and you say that, okay, this particular signpost tells you turn left, and whereas Big Brewski is to the right, you might land into a ditch, correct? Because of factual incorrect information. But there's no guarantee that after going to Big Brewski and coming back, you might not fall into a ditch. That is still there, right? So these are certain considerations we have to take. But where accuracy is key, yes, we are talking about today's day, but we are looking at a long-term implication when we are going to embrace AI in our organization. And where are the sectors where your hallucinations will not do? Do you agree? Healthcare, legal, finance, and customer experience. Each are different domains, different paradigms, but each of them require you to be very accurate. Healthcare, you cannot manage to have anything going wrong. I think someone in the day, Merck also put across one particular presentation, as well as someone in the days talked about healthcare, a single error, a drug being ruled out, the complete R&D effort of years going down because of some factual incorrect information can create problem. Legal, you can hang a person, right? So anyway, laws have come across in UK, US about providing that, what we call as counterfactual explanation. Okay? All those things are there. This is just a covering part of whatever we heard in the last 2 days. Finance, we all know, if your loan, you want to build a house and get it and your loan doesn't get approved. So now you should know why it didn't get approved. And in that particular case, there should be an explanation why that algorithm didn't give you that home loan. It may even recommend to you, okay, you should have your all credit cards paid on time. That could be recommendation 1. The recommendation 2 could be your salary should be increased by 50,000. Okay, so that could be. So you can always go back to your boss and ask for the rise. Customer experience. We do not want to lose our customers, right? It's very difficult to onboard new customers, to have our own customers loyal to us, coming back to us, right? The whole product solution, what we say in SAFE, that kind where people come back to us. So all this, where accuracy is key, we cannot let the systems hallucinate. Now, why hallucinations occur? Multiple reasons, multiple nuances. I have just captured just few of them, where you have very low quality training data. Have you cleaned the data? Have you captured the correct data? What kind of data you are actually saying? So the GIGO word has been floating around since yesterday, garbage in, garbage out. So you have to have the right quality of training data. What is overfitting? Anyone? Don't look at that person with that cap on. What is overfitting? Anyone? AI conference. Like to share? You are limited to a certain training data set, which is just that much. You cannot go beyond that, right? So anything answer you will give is related to that. So that is a overfitting. You should be exposed to a large amount of data for your things to be of value. Third part is lack of real world grounding. We sometimes miss out because we do not know what is there. When has your LLM been trained? What is your cutoff rate of the LLMs? This is very important. Otherwise, you will give those information of Yuri Gagarin or whatever context would be there. And finally, inability to fact check. Today, our dependence on AI is so much. Should the AI not be also able to fact check? Should we not build it in the system? Today, we are talking of testing is important. We talk of test first, test-driven development. Test first is the part. Since this is an agility conference, so I'm bringing that point also as this closing part. So when you are saying inability to fact check, if you are doing testing purposefully, then what should you not automate that testing also for the AI? Should not that be a part of that? So inability to fact check, this will lead you to a challenge. So we have to have the Superman, Superwoman, Superhuman coming in. And that's where that RAG comes in. From a large language models when you're working, how can we use something known as Retrieval-Augmented Generation? A technique. I think most of those who are already into the tech space are fully aware of what you meant by RAG. And you are also aware of another part where you can get good data from a LLM. What is that other part? Anyone? Fine-tuning. Have you heard about fine-tuning? You get your AI model, you get your foundation models, and then you do the fine-tuning part. But fine-tuning and RAG have different context. RAG is like what? Retrieval-Augmented Generation. You will have enhanced accuracy, you will have breakthrough potential, grounded in facts. How do you do that? It's AI's way of telling you, hey, hold, you asked me a question, right? Hold on, let me Google it for you. This is AI's way of answering by RAG, Retrieval-Augmented Generation. So let's look at what this is all about. So it is a process where RAG helps the LLM to be more accurate based on your organizational part. We'll see why can't we fine tune and get those data? Why cannot we have more data accordingly? Let's look at that. How does RAG work? Very short, I'm keeping it short so that people do not falter on the time part. Another 10 minutes or so, I think we should be done for part. How does the RAG works? Okay, forget RAG. Initially, as a user, you have an LLM, right? And the user could be you. It could also be an app, API, whomsoever is reaching out to this LLM or large language model. What do? You question the LLM, and then you get the answer. That answer may be incorrect. The answer what you get may be wrong. And what kind of wrong answers you get? It could be a sentence wrong answer, right? Hallucination. What does that mean? In the same sentence you say, the sky is blue, the sky is black. You say the SCAIN conference is conducted in Aloft. The next moment you ask the same question, it said the SCAIN conference is being conducted in Novotel. So that is a sentence kind of thing. Second could be a prompt hallucination. What is a prompt hallucination? Ankit, are you still around? Ankit Srivastava? Ankit? Oh, he's still left. So yesterday was his birthday. So we decided, okay, we'll send him a card by generating a happy birthday Ankit. Send a card saying happy birthday Ankit. Instead of that, it sent a card saying happy anniversary Rucha and Ankit. So that is a prompt. What you ask a question, he gave a totally different answer. Third part is also sometimes which is the context part. When you miss out the context, then that is a problem. And that is how you reach out to this particular RAG to how can I attend to this part by making the LLM understand the context. Today, our morning keynote, if you understand, if you remember well, Andrew Sells said in the new way of SAFe, he says there has to be a purpose. You should know clearly. You should know something called mental models. And what was the third part? You should understand the context. And how do you apply the context? RAG tells you how to apply the context. Because in your outside LLM or anywhere, you may not want to give out your data. Very true about that part. So how does it work? See, here is the, from that earlier part of just a question to the LLM and answer back to you as a user or a system or a API or whatever. We are looking at this kind of way. You see there are multiple ways. Somewhere you have your proprietary data based in your organization. You have something called an orchestrator. See, the orchestrator comes in, it's not a Scrum Master, by the way. Okay, it's an orchestrator, it's a system, we'll see. You have the LLM as always. You have something called a vector database. Let me quickly explain you this and then we'll move ahead. Not much technical part. So first part is the user asks a question to this orchestrator. And what happens in this orchestrator, it doesn't directly go to the LLM. What happens is the question goes to the embedding model where your proprietary data, maybe your something on your Google Drive, your PDF, your internal organizational policies which are not available outside. In that data is saved. From that data, the question goes, and the next step is a question vector comes back to you, the orchestrator. And at the same time, when you are sent a question, embedding comes into something called a vector database, which is capturing all this. Now imagine this vector database is collecting based on your context. So it is going to provide your context, and it is going to give you a context which is very, very up to date. So based on this third question, the fourth question is now you are putting the question vector to the vector database. In turn, you are getting a top k nearest, forget, top knn vectors. Some vectors you will get which will ensure now whatever prompt you are sending to the LLM has the original question plus this context. Nothing, it is just, I said, no, it is AI's way of, wait, I will Google it for you. Here the Google is not the external Google, but your own organizational part. Are you with me till this point? And finally, the answer what you get from the LLM will be loaded with context. And that's what the answer the user will get. So a question somewhere comes that, okay, if you ask AI, can a cat speak? Not mew. Can a cat speak in English? What will the answer be given by the AI? No? Yes? How? Yes. So you have to provide the context that I am talking of Tom and Jerry or I am speaking of Garfield. Then it will give the answer. That's the only part of RAG. And where does your RAG work for an organization? Why not fine-tune this LLM itself? Because fine-tuning is what pre-training, no? You are first pre-training that data. Pre-training costs a lot. It takes a time cutoff date. Once you are trained, now you have to work on that. RAG is something where you are continuously updating that data, having that infrastructure to work and done with that. So that's the part of RAG, as simple as that's what I covered on the technical part for the RAG. And this is an example of an actual case, like we are using LangChain, Pincone database, vector. This is just an example of same part which I gave. Okay, now quickly getting on to 3 applications of where it works in an agile. And I'm not talking of estimating or story pointing. I don't want to get in the topic because we are going to close this talk and do the final part. So it can be work in a real-time access to information, knowledge sharing, as well as context-aware coaching. Let's look at these 3 and then we'll call it a short. When we talk of real-time access to information, what is the challenge? We have a lot of documentation and which is quite dynamic. Teams, presently one organization I'm going, they are at the bottommost level, they are working everything in the Azure DevOps. The other management is looking only at Jira, somebody is at Rally, all those. They are sharing their retrospective data in Confluence. So use cases to retrieve these latest artifacts from these various tools. And finally, get up-to-date information without manuals. So this could be one example of a real-time access to information. What could be enhanced knowledge sharing? We are talking about collaboration, breaking down those silos. The challenge over is, we have certain knowledge in pockets somewhere, each where there is living in pockets. What can you use? Query those internal wikis, chat logs, everything, and break down those silos, democratize access, right? It's a very important, this is the second. And the third application which can work in agile cases, context-aware coaching. Today we find coaches going across many organizations and start coaching. As soon as it's like imperative. If you ask me a question, I have to give you an answer. It's not so, right? You have to be aware of the context. Someone said first 6 months, we were only trying to understand what it is, and then we tried to put, in the morning someone said, right, we were only listening, and then we provided a solution for them to come up with a solution. So here, context-aware situation is, organizations, there is attrition, new people keep on coming, going, lot of information is added. Now we want these refreshers and everything to happen. You can answer questions retrieving context from the internal guide, policies, training materials which you have built across. Many organizations we go, and I will honestly tell you present context also, they would have gone so many agile trainings, coachings, but nothing is available to the people who are there. Every day they are starting with a level 0. So how can you help to do this? And finally, this scales your coaching effort. You do not have to put on lot many effort on this, right? So these are certain few of the things which we said can work in a context of a RAG using, that is Retrieval-Augmented Generation. Retrieve, augment whatever your prompt is, and generate the answer. So Gen AI, we say, is making spaces. It's not a buzzword anymore. It's in everyone's life, and we saw how it happening. So these are the 3 applications which we thought out, right? You survived. You thought that, okay, it will be a long part. Just wanted to cover on this part. Thank you.